crafty peeps, welcome back to Witchtionery. If you have yet to subscribe to this channel, then please do so because we are getting crafty and spooky all month long. And today I wanted to bring to you the Concord 9th and Simon Says stamp collaboration called Monster Hugs. I thought it was really cute and funny that this stamp set actually was sold out within like 2 days of it premiering on STAMPtember. It's really adorable, so I can completely understand. And that being said, shout out alert, I have to shout out my boss and coworker, I guess, Awilda, who let me borrow this stamp set. You know how some people and some kids have fairy godmothers and drag queens have fairy drag mothers? Well, I have a fairy craft mother, and it's my boss Awilda. She's a crafter, and she has encouraged me in so many ways to continue my crafting journey, so I have to thank her because without her, none of this YouTube channel would honestly have been possible. Thank you so much for letting me use this stamp set, and I really appreciate you. Anyway, back to making this card. To start off, I'm going to take a piece of Strathmore watercolor paper and I'm going to heat emboss some clear embossing powder onto the actual panel, and then I'm going to take my Zig Clean Color Real brush markers and I am going to begin to watercolor these little images in the colors that I want. The colors that I actually chose were purple and green, and it did take me a bit to realize that like my little kid's imagination, like my inner child, was just running rampant this day when I decided to do these cards because I was clearly channeling Barney. There was no way around this. I was thinking about Barney, or maybe that little weird animal thing that was in the Powerpuff Girls at one time. I don't know if I'm the only one that remembers that episode, but yeah, I was definitely thinking about something that was purple and green. And I don't know, I do think that these little monsters turned out really cute, so I can't really knock my creativity here. But yeah, after I was done coloring all of my little images, I'm gonna start working on a panel that I kind of wanted to be an accent sort of pattern paper to these little monsters, because I did want my monsters to be the focal point. I'm gonna take out a piece of acetate and I'm gonna start ink smooshing on my Strathmore watercolor base. I'm going to just pull out my Zig Clean Color Real brush markers and I'm going to color the acetate sheet itself. Not really do anything fancy, literally just color the actual sheet. And I'm going to color the sheet in random Halloween colors. The reason why I wanted to do ink swooshing is because you really do get a lot of control when you do this technique. You get a good amount of pigment onto the actual splatter, and you get a good amount of control, so you can control where that color goes and you can control where the muddiness will probably happen. So if you're intimidated by this technique, I welcome you to try it. It's a lot of fun and it can quickly also become addicting. I guess now in comparison to the alcohol ink craze, it's kind of outdated, but I still think it's one of those oldie and goodie techniques to kind of revisit occasionally. After I was done ink swooshing all of my colors, I'm gonna just take a clear acrylic block and I'm gonna add some colors to the side of it, and then I'm just gonna flick that color onto my panel. I do want to have some overlaying colors, but I don't want them to muddy, and I figured this would be the best way to do that because the color would just sit on top of the other color without, you know, much blending. After I was done doing that, I took my die cut images and my Tombow glue and I started adhering like the little hand to my actual monsters. My little green monster is going to be waving while my purple monster is going to be able to hold a balloon. So I adhere those down and I'm using glue instead of my tape runner because I know that Strathmore watercolor paper can be, well, she can be a little moody when it comes to being adhered down with a tape runner, and I'm starting to learn that the hard way. So I figured, you know what, let me just use some glue and adhere it down to my vellum sheet. And because vellum is very slick and slippery, I needed to, you know, do a little bit of weight to make sure that that didn't slip anywhere. And I'm going to do the exact same thing for my purple little monster. And after I was done doing that, I'm just going to fussy cut them out. All I wanted to do was give them a little border that would stand out against that really crazy panel. So once I was done doing that, I realized I had yet to color that little balloon, and I did want it to, you know, coordinate with the rest of the stuff. So I figured I didn't have enough, you know, orange, so why not paint this orange? So that's exactly what I do, and I'm doing the exact same thing that I did before, just coloring it and then using some watercolors. After I was done doing that, I really wanted to get down to the composition of my card. As you guys know, I really like to play around with how the layout of my card is going to be. I think it adds a little bit of interest, just to challenge myself with different things that I can do. So I figured for this card, maybe I'll just take a strip, and honest truth here, I could not find my striped washi tape. I wanted to give myself a little striped black and white little banner to give more of a Halloween look, and I couldn't find it. I find it later and I use it for the inside of the card, but I really wanted it for here. I raise up this panel using my Scotch tape, and then after I'm done doing that, I have to kind of figure out how am I going to stamp down his little string. Which string do I even want to use? Because I do want him holding a balloon. I want the sentiment to clearly be Happy Halloween. Once I'm satisfied with how I can make him look like he's holding it, I'm just going to heat emboss the string with some white embossing powder, and then I'm going to kind of put this aside for a little bit and work on my other panel. These panels, by the way, are ultra matte black cardstock, and because they're so black, I figured they would make the colors of those greens pop out even more. For this layout, I decided to go with the corners of my papers just because there was so much color there that I didn't really want to like not showcase that, and I like the way that this ends up looking because my monster can still have a little moment to shine without much taking away from that. I'm gonna raise him up with some foam squares just so he can match the same dimension from the panels, and then I'm just gonna prop him up on some Neenah Solar white cardstock. And after I was done with that, I decided that, you know what, I'm going to use that striped washi tape that I couldn't find at the time on the inside of my card just to add a little bit more interest. Man, oh man, did I wish that I could have that on the outside though. If I could go back in time. If I could go back in time, guys. Anyway, from my stash, I'm going to pull out my hand-lettered Halloween sentiments from Simon Says Stamp. This was also another Stamptember release that I really, really enjoy. I'm going to pull out my Hero Arts pigment ink, and I'm just going to start stamping down that bat. This bat and this pigment ink is also very temperamental, and I ended up like smudging it a little bit, but I'm not really mad at it. It's something that I didn't want to really fix because I was really tired this day, but I also don't mind. So I'm just going to stamp down those little bats, and I'm also going to do the same thing for my little green monster to, you know, make sure that they coordinate pretty well. And then off camera, I'm going to adhere the sentiment Happy Halloween to my balloon, because I like the way that this one was lettered as opposed to the one that came in the actual kit. I don't know, the one in the kit just kind of looked really, really tiny and like a strip that I probably could have added at the bottom of my card versus on the balloon. Anyway, on my table, I just happened to have this piece of ephemera from the Spooky Boo Pebbles Incorporated collection. So I just raised that up with some foam squares, and I, you know, just put that on there. Why can't my monster say spooky, you know? So yeah, once I was done with that, I wanted a sentiment for the inside of the card. So I took the Trick or Treat sentiment and my Memento Tuxedo black ink, and I stamped that down to the inside of my cards. And I really have no idea why my desk ends up so messy every single time I craft, but you know what? That's how you know I'm being creative, I guess. But yeah. So once I'm done doing that, I basically am done with both my cards, and I absolutely love the way that both of these looks. Well guys, thank you so much for joining me today for another Halloween video, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye!